Arena shooters. I think that's what it's called. The Fall of Quake. Yeah, I started it and I was like, this would be a really good one to watch on stream. Let's go ahead and watch. I do recommend checking him out. This is WelfareWalrus. He makes some good content. He's not very known. Again, 1.97k viewers. And I think he put a lot of work into this video and it didn't really get the attention it deserved. So let's turn this up.
At Bethesda's latest E3 conference, Bethesda and its studios spoke about quite a few games they were working on, from the new Doom to Elder Scrolls Online updates, and even spent quite a bit of time on Fallout 76. What was likely apparent to any Arena FPS fan was the lack of mention of anything Quake related, despite that the game Quake Champions should be releasing sometime this year. In fact, QuakeCon is being renamed to...
We have to talk about this. When was this? 2019? Yeah, the game's not releasing, buddy. I hate to break it to you. This game is eternally in early access. Hate to break it to you, dude. Yeah, this QuakeCon was renamed to DoomCon. It upset a lot of people in NA Arena FPS. Let's get back to it.
DoomCon. And it even said that 2019 was the year of Doom. Considering 2019 was supposed to be the year Quake Champions would be fully released, I think it's pretty obvious that Bethesda
I think that was just rumors. I don't know if that was ever confirmed, but it was heavily rumored that QC was going to release in 2019.
Really have much planned for the game or the series going forward. We've gotten to the point where Fallout 76, a game that not only sold far less than expected, but was a massive critical failure and became a laughingstock, is seen by Bethesda as a more worthwhile investment going forward.
It's because they make more money off Fallout 76 than they will ever make off Champions. It's the sad truth, but that's how it is. They can't monetize Champions in a way that will please Arena FPS fans and the corporate at Bethesda, the corporate offices, and it's very sad to see. And I think, like, while weapon skins are nice, it's not going to push the game the way that Fallout 76 did.
Than Quake Champions, a game from one of the most beloved FPS franchises of all time. Suffice to say, the gaming industry doesn't really care much for arena shooters in this day and age.
I wouldn't say they don't care. Again, there's some pretty hot takes in this video, and I'm probably going to be pausing a lot. Sorry about that. I don't think people don't care, because if you look at Steam charts, we can actually do this now. We can actually do this now, steamcharts.com. I do this a lot. You can search Quake Champions in here, and you can see the amount of active players. And you can see, oh, we're going down again. So we had a few months where we were gaining, and now we're losing again. But you can see back in 2018, where is it? Yeah, 2018, we had a good amount of players, and we were peaking pretty high. Like you can see, for a few months, we were doing really well. And then they just lost it all. I don't know how they managed to do it, but they lost it all. I've talked about this before. I don't want to get too far into that.
But why is that? It could be argued that the first major multiplayer shooters were arena shooters.
Okay,
I don't know if everyone will agree with my definition. I think most will agree that what separates arena FPS from other genres of shooter is its speed, emphasis on controlling the map as a means to your resources, and equal starting stats between all players.
That's fair.
This is what separates, say, Quake 3 and Unreal Tournament from other fast-paced shooters of the time like Natural Selection or Tribes.
Yeah, but I mean, I think they're forgetting that you need weapon pickups in arena shooters. That's a definite definition. Like, that's something you see across every arena shooter is weapon pickups on the map. And I guess that could fall under map control, right? But I would put that under a separate thing for sure. Because it is difficult for a difficult game for new players to get into. Yeah, I don't know if that's like really true. Maybe with Quake Champions it is to some degree, but I think a lot of that sentiment is really like misplaced, because I could launch like I could have a friend who's never played the game before, launch the game and still have fun. The only issues that's holding it back are how unintuitive the combat is in a Quake game, right? So I have to go beforehand and tell him, hey, LG's meant for this situation, rockets are meant for this situation, railguns meant for this situation, and it's very unintuitive for a new player. Like, a new player would never get that.
As far as multiplayer FPS were concerned during the 90s, Quake was the game to beat, and many developers tried to beat Quake by being like Quake. In my opinion, the series that did it best was the Unreal Tournament series by adding weapon variety, new modes, and later vehicles. As many of you likely know, it wasn't another arena FPS that would eventually beat Quake's popularity, but a new type of shooter altogether.
Okay. Interesting. I can't agree with this. I really can't. I think what ultimately ended Quake's career was Counter-Strike. I think back when Counter-Strike first released, it blew Quake out of the water, for sure. Within a year, that game took out Quake. Quake's legacy, I should say. Or Quake's future, not legacy.
I don't think Halo... And like I've said before in other videos, Halo really did change console gaming. With its clever control design, slowing down its gunplay, and adding regenerating armor, Halo managed to deviate from the arena shooter formula just enough to make it functional on consoles. And considering console gaming during the early 2000s were starting to devastate similar PC releases, it became clear that if you wanted to make an FPS, you were likely going to have to at least pay consoles, and specifically their controllers, some lip service when designing your games.
Okay, that's fair. That argument is actually fair. I thought he was going to say it killed it in terms of player numbers. I don't know if it killed Quake as directly as he's thinking it did. Maybe it pushed the console arena shooter franchise forward, but I don't think it ever like really hurt Quake, because Quake was never on consoles that much.
It's a
unless you count like Quake 3 or... Was Quake 3 on? I think Quake 3 was like an arcade game. It was like Quake 3, what is it? Quake 2 was on there, and I think Quake 1 was on N64.
The fact that with the controller, you really can't make the quick and precise shots necessary to be good at arena FPS. So games like Quake...
It also didn't help that games like CS and Halo had much more spectator friendly, or that are much more spectator friendly. Yeah, that's true. And with an increase in focus on spectators and esports, it's much easier for the average Joe to follow what was happening. That's true. I think that's really true. And especially you can see that with Quake Champions, right? When they did the whole $1 million tournament and they were trying to play Sacrifice, it lost interest. People lost interest in it so quickly because you couldn't spectate it good. The only types of game you can really spectate in an arena shooter are like Duel. Duel is the absolute easiest you can do in terms of arena shooter spectating. But team modes get way too hectic, way too quickly. It's too fast. It really is. They need to find a way to bridge that, especially in Diabotical.
Were replaced by pseudo-arena shooters like Halo.
Especially since Diabotical is going to have a team focus too. I should point that out.
Which, despite Halo's slower movement speed, actually still did retain a lot of arena shooter qualities.
Yeah,
you still had to collect weapons throughout the map, and everyone began each round with an equal start. But the Twitch...
And I think a lot of people don't agree that Halo is an arena shooter. I consider it an arena shooter, but a console arena shooter.
Skill required to play arena shooters were definitely no longer required. As time went on and Halo made way to other FPS, PC gaming in the background was becoming more and more popular. With the advent of Steam and the mass popularity of PC-only free-to-play games that would come in the 2010s, it seemed right to bring the arena FPS out of retirement. At first, a few indie studios put their hat into the ring, but with the multiplayer space being far more competitive and without a real budget, most of these died pretty quickly. What the genre needed was releases from studios that could both advertise their game and foster its competitive community, and it seemed for a time that this would indeed happen. Epic Games,
Unreal Tournament
the studio
4.
behind
UT4.
Unreal Tournament, announced a new game in the franchise, and later, id Software would do the same for their series Quake. Sadly, things didn't really go well for either. For the new Unreal Tournament, it had a pretty nice start. It was going to be developed by a small core team of Epic Games staff, but also co-developed with the help of their online community. While development was slow, it seemed at first that the developers were making all the right decisions. They were listening to fans, and we began to see consistent updates. In the early days of development, in order to play the game, you had to find a random install in their forum and go through hoops just to get it working. Back then, and to this day, most of the maps were unfinished, and many gun models were still just using developer graphics. But despite its early state, and that the game's only way of spreading was through word of mouth, the game had a consistent and active player base.
It got
not millions of players.
It definitely got like into the lower hundred or the higher hundreds, maybe even low thousands. But definitely them having it word of mouth and so hard to find. I found out about UT4 in like 2014, 15. And apparently it was already out before then. And it was like, wow, what What the?
players, but you could always find active servers in any game mode in your area.
Yeah.
What was most surprising was how active the community was in helping develop the game. Players
Especially,
would submit
yeah.
maps, models, in-game art, and
I was
even
about to
game
say
modes. The developers and the community
true.
would coordinate
It's very
and get
true.
these things put into the game. It was actually really special to see, and I have personally never seen anything like it from a AAA developer before or since. The closest I could think of...
The thing is, I don't know if I could consider Unreal Tournament a AAA game. Just like in the same sense that I wouldn't consider Quake Champions a AAA game. It's developed like one, but it's definitely not one.
Would be the community-made cosmetics in Team Fortress 2, but
Yeah.
in this case it was applied to every aspect of the game. As time went on, the pre-alpha period extended longer and longer, as the main developers would constantly be put onto other projects temporarily.
Rip Paragon.
Despite this,
Paragon was
community members
fun.
still poured thousands of hours into making maps and game modes for the game.
See, and
The
this
developers
earlier, like I was a huge fan of UT4. I was big into UT2K4, and going back to more UT99 feel for movement felt like a step back to me. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, it took me a while to get used to the movement in Unreal Tournament. That's something that a lot of people don't realize is the movement's a little different from UT2K. 2K4, just the 2Ks in general, because there's also like Black Edition and all that. But also, I mean, it just seems like that this has been happening more and more, is games when they first release, it takes them about a year to get into the state they need, and that's wrong. Games should be on release, they should be fully finished as a release title, right? Instead, what we see is games take an entire year to really get to where they need to be for people to enjoy it. And that's dumb.
Making some updates
That's
for
dumb.
a few months and implementing what the community had made. But things stopped in 2017.
Yeah.
The developers were going to take a quick 2-month break to develop a battle royale mode for what was then the
Fortnite.
game known as Fortnite.
I love
Things weren't
Fortnite.
really looking good for it, but they figured maybe adding a battle royale mode would help. The UT devs got to work and, almost out of thin air and some reused assets, constructed a battle royale mode out of the pieces of what was the original Fortnite.
Yeah.
Not surprisingly, you can
Yeah.
see a lot of the arena shooter philosophy in Fortnite. The
It's
game
not
has
even
no-
just Fortnite, though. That's the crazy thing. Battle Royales in general are literally arena shooter death matches in disguise. It really is. It's crazy to me. It's like, it's insane to me. The only difference is because they're more fun, because they add more RNG mechanics. And I think a lot of casual players like RNG mechanics. I think that's pretty true. And people hate me for saying this, but it's true. All Fortnite is a giant deathmatch. Or team deathmatch. Multi-team deathmatch.
ability cooldowns, equal stat starts between rounds, aiming down sights isn't really required for most guns, and the game has an
Fortnite, we love Fortnite, yeah. With the rise of hero shooters, I also feel like Epic looking more towards their Unreal Championship series from the original Xbox would have been a better direction. I could agree with that too. I mean, I think Unreal Tournament, I think they could have continued their legacy on console and had more success. And I feel like that's going to get a lot of backlash and heat, but I really think that's true. Halo went in that direction, right? And it kind of worked for them. And then a lot of people, like, it hurt their core fan base, but it definitely garnered attention of a lot of newer players.
emphasis on open combat. As you certainly know, this little Fortnite game mode blew up in popularity,
Yeah,
quickly
that's true.
becoming the most popular video game in the world. While this was great for Epic, this was a death sentence for Unreal Tournament. Before this, the developers used to give weekly updates of UT's development through Twitch, where they would play with and interact with fans while also giving praise to the works of the community. After Fortnite, the devs basically
Now you're
went
paying for
completely silent.
beta hero shooters? Bro, I just want to shoot guns. Yeah. Again, it's casual friendly mechanics like that. That's all it is. And I really don't mind abilities as much as other people, but I do think we've seen a lot of oh, I guess my cat just wanted to see what I was doing. We definitely have seen a lot of a lot more abilities, and I feel like it's becoming very saturated very quickly.
With a year passing without a single blog update, it was clear the game was abandoned by Epic.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it wasn't abandoned by the community. Despite no official support, the community put in thousands of more hours into creating content for the purpose of it being put into the game. The saddest part of all of this is that without a single developer at Epic around to look over the content, none of it was officially implemented into Unreal Tourney. This is the part of the story that upsets me the most.
It's so sad. It really is.
Was to have a single person look over the content and implement it. If all the game got was that, the fanbase would have been able to finish the game themselves. Epic's total abandonment and silence to the fanbase is honestly one of the most disrespectful things I've seen a gaming company do to their fans.
It's so true.
It was heartbreaking.
This is why I can't support id Software. It really is. I can't support id Software. I didn't buy Doom Eternal. I haven't played it. I hear it's the greatest game since in the decade or whatever. I can't support id Software because of that. What they did to Quake and how they treated their fan base, it made it clear what they wanted the most out of things. And it's like, why do I still play Quake Champion? It's because I enjoy the game. But am I ever going to put money into it again? No, never. There's no way I'd ever put money into this game again. There's no way I'd ever put money into id Software again.
Considering at one point the developers and fans had a connection stronger than in any other game I'd seen. Epic didn't even have the courtesy of bothering to mention that they abandoned UT until over a year later when a journalist specifically asked someone at Epic about it. Though by then it was already obvious to everyone.
It was clear. It was pretty clear.
As for the latest Quake, in my opinion, it didn't reach the same heights of UT, but neither did it reach the same lows. Quake Champions was announced at E3 2016. It had quite a bit of hype surrounding it because it seemed that Bethesda was going to put in some quality time and money making sure Quake would be successful. After all, Quake was the most well-known arena FPS in history. But even at the time of its announcement, there were a few things getting people worried. The main thing being its champion system.
Oh wow, that is an old UI. Holy fuck, I haven't seen that UI in years. Wow, I'm so glad they changed everything. You can't see it too well, but the purchase options were at the top. Holy fuck.
For the most part, equal starts have been a core of arena shooters.
Yeah.
The gameplay revolved around the assumption that all players had the exact same stats as you. In a way, it could be argued that Quake Champions, given its champions mechanic, might not even be an arena shooter. But that at most is an argument of semantics. The trouble the champion system brought to Quake were much bigger. Keep in mind that when Quake Champions was announced, Overwatch was the FPS to beat. By implementing a class and ability system, they thought they could ride what in retrospect would be a short-lived fad in shooters. That would later be swallowed by guess which genre and game.
Fortnite!
The champion system was poorly implemented and poorly balanced. Examples include how the movement abilities trivialized the use of higher skill movements such as rocket jumping, how many skills were ways to give players cheap and easy kills, or how some skills were just outright broke.
This is why I think Diabolical can do better. id Software is no longer an indie studio. They can't rely off their community anymore. I feel like that's really the direction we've gone. You're right about players liking more RNG mechanics. There's a great video about reducing skill gap from Core A Gaming. More focused on fighting games, it's still applicable in my opinion. As well as some good talks from Richard Garfield, creator of Magic the Gathering. That's true. Yo, if you wanna, I don't know, I have a Discord for those of you who don't know. You can type !socials like this. You can type it like that. I have a Discord. If there's any videos you want to suggest that I watch on stream, feel free to do it there. Seriously, I like watching these videos on stream because it gives everyone's chance to show their opinion, right? To share their opinion. And I think Core A Gaming is tight. I'll have to check it out then. I really will.
One example would be Doomslayer's Rip and Tear ability, which gives him enhanced movement speed and causes him to punch opponents. For starters, Doomguy's punch ability would semi-randomly cause you to leap forward.
No, it's not semi-randomly.
Out of the map.
It's not semi-randomly. This guy didn't play the game long enough. Or at least the mechanic wasn't really ever explained enough. When the crosshair turns red, you leap when you punch. Street Fighter V on release, that game was dog shit. You can counter any ult. Still is. SF5. Lol. True.
But worse is how it makes the player near colorblind, meaning it will be difficult knowing if a healing ward is friendly or an enemy, meaning it could either heal you or kill you if you walk into it. What was worst about the champion system, however, is how it took development time away from far more important things like game modes and optimization. When Quake Champions released in open beta, it pretty much only had deathmatch and team deathmatch as modes. Eventually, fans complained enough to get Capture the Flag in, but the damage was already done. You see, if you're new to
on top of CTF being added, oh my god, they dropped support for it immediately. It was crazy.
Arena shooters, the last mode you want to play is deathmatch. It's extremely intimidating because in it, new players get completely stomped by better ones.
See, and that's why I think Diabolical has more of a chance with its casual modes and its casual supported game. It goes the extra mile to get new players. It really does. And I think that's a sentiment you don't see in arena shooters anymore. Like, they tried and then they quickly went back to their core audience in Quake Champions. And I don't know. I've said it before. I don't think people should be getting catered towards if you're older and you think it's better for the genre. For you. That's just my 2 cents.
Still exists in team objective modes. Getting kills isn't as important, so even bad players can feel like they contributed in some way. This is why objective-based game modes have been popular in arena shooters for years, and why it's become a staple of more casual multiplayer games today. But what I think was what sealed Quake Champions' fate is its poor optimization. In all honesty, Quake Champions may be the most poorly optimized game I've played in years. It was, and still is, basically unplayable on most mid-range computers, and even many high-end computers had issues.
And their specs, what's even more fucked up about this, their specs on Steam show it to be lower amounts. That's what's fucked up about it. Like, it says you could run this on like a fucking, I don't know, a fucking Cerulean processor or something. It's fucking wild.
The major one being horrible micro stutters that would get you killed and make you rage. The engine also had hit detection issues, which is a huge issue for an arena shooter. It's thanks to all of these major issues that Quake Champions never really took off, and why Bethesda thinks Fallout 76 is a better investment opportunity than Quake.
Good luck in your matches,
Neither Quake nor UT were likely ever going to get as huge as the IPs they were abandoned for. The sad fact is that arena shooters are like.
Wait, what is this comic? There's chalk line going through the entire apartment. That's right, it's a warning. It's a what? It's a side for the corrupt UT loving dogs. The side is Jesus Christ. Oh my god.
Like they once
That's
did.
A good meme. That's a good meme.
Publishers have to realize that not every game needs millions of active daily players to be successful.
Yeah.
I think a good comparison would be fighting games. The fighting game genre has seen a huge resurgence over the last decade, despite the fact that very few of these games ever sell blockbusters.
That's true.
Street Fighter, the most well-known name in fighting games, only sells a few million copies each installment. Yet, that's enough for the publisher and the community. In fighting games, the publisher has a nice, consistent fan base, and as long as they cater to that fan base, they can expect steady profits from a community that won't leave them. It's not like arena shooters need the budgets of games like Battlefield either.
That's a hot take.
Massive battlefields and campaigns, just a few maps and a few weapons is enough.
That's a hot take for sure. I think, wow, that's a really hot take. I think that's the mentality around arena shooters, and I think that's why people say it's a niche. They want to cater towards a lot of their older fan base, and it's like the older fan base is 50 years old by this point. They're fucking dust and bones, right? And it's like I'm 20, like I'm 20, 22, 23. I don't know. I'm fucking forgetting how old I am. Jesus Christ. And it's like, I don't know. What's the incentive for me to play? What's the incentive for anyone from the ages of like 15 to 25 to play? There's no reason to get good at an arena shooter. And it's like there's no incentive for that. Quake Champions had a $1 million tournament, and that flopped. Like, it was supposed to generate hype, but it was all hype within the community. And it's like, I play the game because I enjoy it. But no other kid is going to play this game because it's a bad career move for them. And that's unfortunately the state we're in with esports. Kids are looking at it as career moves. And that's good, right? That's entirely fine. I am okay with it. But that means like games like Quake are going to get left behind because a lot of interest as a spectator isn't there unless it's dual. But Duel is so mentally taxing on people, it's so hard to get into, especially at a higher level. I feel like, and maybe this is like unfair to say because I don't know. I can't say I'm a top level in Counter-Strike or anything, but I think the mental level in Quake Duel 1v1 is a lot higher than a game like Counter-Strike or Valorant or Overwatch. But maybe that's unfair to say.
The last Unreal tournament was being made by a group of around 5 people. Yet, with basically no advertising, an annoying nearly hidden install button, and unfinished textures, the game was able to get a very dedicated player base during its pre-alpha days before it was abandoned. Even more impressive, the fanbase was dedicated enough to put thousands of man-hours into supporting the game they loved. Like the fighting game genre, which would have been dead long ago if it weren't for the community hosting fights and promoting their games.
That's true.
The arena shooter fanbase has shown that it can be just as dedicated. After all, many of these people still play Quake 3 and Quake Live to this day.
The goal shouldn't be to stagnate, right? The goal should be to surpass, right? Like, I said this sentiment a lot. I said Quake Champions back, and I still own this sentiment. Back in like 2017, 2018, I felt like Quake Champions could easily get 30,000 players daily. And I said that would be enough. I said, you know what? Even if it doesn't get 30,000 players, above 10,000 would be enough. And we dropped so low. We have dropped so low since then.
While Quake Champions isn't in a very good state, I'm confident that if Bethesda and id took the right approach, they could turn things around. After all, many people were considering Counter-Strike Global Offensive a failure during its first few months of release.
Yeah.
But thanks to Valve changing course and making the right decisions, that game is now one of the most popular on Steam.
It's true.
In the modern era of online games where most can't seem to last a year, isn't catering to a consistent fanbase a safer bet than trying and most likely failing to become the next Fortnite?
Again, it's the safer move, but it's not what gets you to grow as a game.
With the explosion of esports and Twitch,
look at what happened. Like, this is a year ago. Like, this is almost an entire year ago. You can look at the player base numbers now, and you can see that catering towards the same fan base just won't work. It just won't work in the long run.
I believe an arena shooter has more chances of doing well today than at any point in the last decade. All it really takes is a team with the backing to make the right game, to know what their fan base wants while supporting.
I pretty much had to explain this to Drew about how people my age, so Zoomers, want to play games competitively instead of for fun. Yeah, because there's a legitimate, like, it's a legitimate job, right? Maybe the world doesn't see it as that yet, but anyone who has half a brain cell can see that the world is going towards an esport-driven scene. This won't be a fad. This is going to be around for another 10, 20 years. Maybe even more. It really will be.
Their competitive scene, and to have realistic expectations of what they can expect in terms of player numbers. It's worked for other communities.
I haven't seen so many nerds in the same room before, ever.
And I know it can work
Jesus
here too.
Christ.
See ya.
That was a good video. There were a lot of hot takes from this guy, and it was a really, ultimately, overall, a very good video. And I think that while the sentiment is right, a lot of the takes are pretty eh. Oh yeah, I forgot. Dude, this guy, this is the reach Diabolical has had. Look at this. For those of you watching this video, you might be interested in knowing the game Diabolical is currently in beta. That's crazy. That Diabolical is getting that big. You think esports are like football, or like a football league? I wouldn't say that. But I definitely would say that it's going to be maybe mainstream at some point within the next 10 to 15 years.